Hello, security pros. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on today's ESX webinar, Top Lowest Cost Fire Solution to Protect Commercial Fire Accounts from Cellular Sunsets and Replace Pods. Don't leave lives or lucrative fire alarm accounts in jeopardy when communications, sunset, or telephone companies cut off leased landlines. I'm Riley Hogendorn, and I'm excited to lead this ESX webinar today. Before we dive in real quick, I'd like to provide some tips for those of you joining us on your first ESX webinar. Welcome. You'll be muted for the duration of this session, but that does not mean we don't want to hear from you. If a question or comment comes to mind at any point during today's session, click the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and I'll ensure we save some time for your question with our experts. We'll also be recording today's webinar so you can rewatch the on-demand session and share it with your colleagues. Tomorrow, you'll receive an email thanking you for your attendance today with a link to the recording. Make sure you mark your calendars for ESX, the Electronic Security Expo 2022. We'll hold this in-person event designed by and for the pro-installed electronic security and life safety channel, June 14 through 17 in Fort Worth, Texas. We at ESA realize your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending some of that time with us today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers. Ziad Ghosani, who is the National Trainer for NAPCO, who is National Training School certified and ESA level 1, 2A, and 2B certified. And David Sperber, who is currently the Southeast Regional Sales Manager for NAPCO, who has been there since 2015, guiding dealers through the 3G and CDMA sunsets. Okay, Ziad, let's dive in.
Riley, greatly appreciate the introduction. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone online here today. The sunset solution of our cellular communicators today is a very hot subject. And we're going to talk about the opportunities of StarLink Radio will provide for our dealers out there in this time during this sunset period that's coming up on us pretty damn quick. And again, Riley mentioned David Sperber is online with me. I greatly appreciate you being here with me. I'm going to let you go ahead and talk a little bit about what are we going to be talking about in terms of sunset solution, David? You've dealt with a lot of dealers out in the road, on the blacktop, so go for it, and then I'll come back here and I'll help you out. And I'll go through the top 10 solutions for everybody. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks, Z. Thanks, Riley. Appreciate you guys having me here. So yeah, what we're going to talk about today is the sunset, sunset that's coming up. Everybody hears us talking about it, and some people are still confused. What is it? What's it mean to our business? What's going to happen? And everything that's going along with it. So hopefully Z and I today will present a good presentation and give you some more information and help you go out there and figure out a solution and be ahead of the curve, so to speak. But as Z mentioned, it's coming up really quick. So 3G and CDMA are sunsetting. It's already in progress. So depending upon what part of the country you're in, I guarantee you've had some communication issues out there as the towers are coming down for certain networks. You're going to see, regional outages, and you're going to see that a radio used to work there and now it doesn't work. That's what's happening. AT&T and Verizon are both working to swap out the older networks, so to speak, and upgrade to the newer networks. So this date is coming. The officially stated sunset end dates, if you have 3G radios out there on AT&T, which is their 3G GSM, the sunset date is set for February 22nd of this year. So we're only about, a little over 5.5 weeks away. And then those radios are, basically going to go down. You might already have radios in their network that have stopped working. So keep in mind, February 22nd is the date for AT&T 3G GSM. Verizon, their CDMA radios are set to sunset the end of December this year. So we've got, basically about 11.5 months to go. And again, parts of the country, you're going to see CDMA starting to disappear. 4G, which is the 4th generation, which is LTE, both Verizon and AT&T have those. LTE is long-term evolution. We are being told at this time it is good until at least 2030, maybe a little bit further, but we're hearing at least to 2030. So we've got another full 8-9 years to go. So we're hoping no more transitions for another decade. But again, the ones that you have out there, I can't stress it enough. Your 3G, your CDMA need to get replaced as soon as possible because these dates are coming.
Fantastic, and I know you're pretty involved with the AICC. That's the Alarm Industry Communication Committee with the carriers. So I do believe when you say, hey, those dates are really hard and let's stick by them. We've been talking about sunset now for quite some time, and I've seen a bunch of communications that came across from different publications in our industry regarding the sunset. And we really, as dealers, should be paying attention to those details and those emails that come along. The carriers really, all they worry about is obviously their network and their communications or their consumers. They know historically, looking at the network from way back in 1G or 2G, if you think about it, all the way up until today. And now they're talking not just 5G, they're talking 6G and all the complications that comes with it. It's all based on consumer demand, if you might say, thinking about what is the bandwidth and how much the consumer uses off of that bandwidth, whether it be back in the 80s when it was in the 1G and it moved into the 2G back in the late 90s, early 2000s, or currently for today, when we're on a 3G, 4G kind of network, the consumer is consuming that network like there is no tomorrow. Bandwidth is really shrinking really fast. And that's the reason they're doing this. That's the reason why they're upgrading into different networks. And currently, as David mentioned, 4G is probably promised till about 2030. But can they change that? Possibly. Can they make it less or can they make it longer? We really don't know, and it's all consumer driven and how much bandwidth they would have. And as you probably know, you're watching the news and you hear in the communications regarding the cellular carriers and what they're facing with the 5G and the 6G networks and the issues they're having with aviations and whatnot. So things can change dramatically, and there's so much involved. And and again, the sunset on the 3G and the CDMA has been out there, and they've been talking about it for a while. And the reason was is they needed to convert all these big old towers across the U.S. into little tiny towers that carry that bandwidth that will allow the consumers to communicate and be able to download videos and do high-speed communications and sharing files and whatnot. So that affected the entire network, not just us, everybody else. And that's one of the big reasons why we're switching this. Well, we've been ahead of the game here for quite some time. Ever since we started our StarLink cellular communications, way before 2011, I would say, we were doing cellular communications and communications part of the NAPCO group. But today, we're the leading communicator when it comes down to fire communications or life safety issues. We're the #1 cellular fire communicators across the U.S., believe it or not. We did a lot of R&D, a lot of work on our network, a lot of work with the carriers themselves to make sure we provide you with the highest quality, fastest, and most secure communication to your central station. And there's a great opportunity for the dealers online today to find out how we're going to be able to utilize those features out of our StarLink radio for your communications. So if you stick around, I'm going to show you the top 10 reasons and why, and the opportunity that is out there for you to generate more recurring revenue as well by utilizing our StarLink radio communicators out in the field. Okay, there's a huge opportunity for everyone in there to actually generate more revenue from existing customers or from new customers, whether it be new sales or existing customers, as I mentioned, to retain your customers on a more secure cellular communications to your central station as well. Think of the opportunity of the fire panels out there that they're currently still communicate on POTS line. I don't know where, but there's still some people probably still have POTS line or think or believe they do have POTS line that their alarm panels communicating to the central station on. Well, I got news. These things hardly ever exist nowadays, okay? There's millions of those that are still on 3G or CDMAs that they need to be upgraded before the set dates that David had talked about here, which is coming. One of them is coming up in less than 8 weeks, or 9 weeks. I would say the end of February, this is it. And as a dealer, you don't want to be caught into this for the last minute trying to scramble and finding solutions for your communication to the central station. There's an estimated of almost 17 million regular legacy control panels out there, intrusion control panels out there that can be upgraded as well and connect it to your central station, and giving the consumer the opportunity to remotely access that as well and get notifications off of that cellular unit that we're going to be talking about over here as well. Also, think of the opportunity of generating more recurring revenue from monitoring sprinklers or supervisory systems for fire alarms or buildings that have a sprinkler system that's never been monitored. A self-contained unit from NAPCO, the StarLink radio built in, that will give you the opportunity to monitor sprinkler systems, troubles, supervisory to your central station. No POTS line needed, easy to install, pre-program, cloud programming. It could not get any easier. So the opportunity for the dealer to generate recurring revenue is lying right there in front of them. And we'll even talk more about why this opportunity is even better with the StarLink radio here in a few minutes as well. So I'm just going to run through the top 10 reasons, really, like I mentioned earlier, on why the StarLink radio communicator is the dealer's choice today and what made us to be number one. First and foremost, it is a universal communicator. It can work on any alarm control panel, whether it be an intrusion or fire. It will work on any fire control panel, 12 to 24 volts out of the box. Okay. And mainly, you know, we talk a lot about fire control panels because life safety is a paramount for us. So this is really, again, the number one cellular fire communicator in the US. And I also wanted to mention that we just introduced recently our FirstNet fire communicator, and that's on the FirstNet Responders Network of AT&T. Check with your local NAPCO rep. We'll get you the application. We'll get you started on how to get involved in that. And that's, you know, one of the most reliable cellular communications network out there today, provided by AT&T, even though AT&T is the big subject today, talking about sunset by the end of February. But hey, FirstNet is here to stay. FirstNet is one of the strongest communication networks across the US. And again, this network is usually utilized by first responders, and NAPCO is on that same network, one of the channels that they provide for life safety communications. So we're on it, check on that as well. And that's what makes us a leader when it comes down to cellular communications. Think of the opportunity when it comes down to intrusion communications on your Berg panels, contact ID 42, the legacy panels that they're out there across the US, whether it be an AT&T or a Verizon network, LTE radios, that is. Also the opportunity to be able to remotely upload and download. Think of the amount of time you'll save in terms of service calls or rolling a truck, okay? Or it could be an ideal thing for take over an existing account to monitor and without it to replace the control panel. And the ability to be able to remotely access that through a smartphone app, be able to arm, disarm, get notification. And again, as little as $10 your cost. And that's considering that you actually apply for your service credit on these units, which we're gonna also be talking about. That's one of the lucrative opportunities that the StarLink radio will provide our dealers. Also the ability to be able to connect remotely to Z-Wave. Okay, 232 Z-Wave devices you can actually remotely access with a smartphone app, and also integrate it with your video cameras if you have video cameras on site. You'll be able to get notifications, text, and emails as well. The number two reason, it is the easiest communicator to install. I would say under 15 minutes. I've seen it done, yeah. Most of the installers will say, no, maybe not. It takes me that long to read the instructions. Well, there's no really instructions there to read. It's pre-activated for you all from the factory. Power it up, give it 2 minutes, and it will be up and running. With the StarLink Free for All program, makes it even easier to install, easier to adopt to. How does the Free for All program pretty much? Anytime you install one of the StarLink radio, NAPCO will apply $100 service credit towards the monthly service fee of that unit. I'll give you an example. How does that apply to the Free for All program? Let's say you go out and you buy yourself an intrusion radio at $100 from your distributor. You install it, you put it online, you attach it to your central station, you're up and running. You apply for the $100 service credit. We get it. We open up the account. We look at the radio. We make sure it is communicating. It is online. We automatically apply your $100 credit towards the monthly service fee of that unit. And guess what? On that intrusion radio, it will equate to about 18 months of free of service for the dealer. What a great opportunity. That's money in your pocket way before, you walk away from the job. Why not? Take advantage of that as well. And again, $100 service credit applies to any of the StarLink radio, whether it be an intrusion, a connected home radio, a FireLink communicator, or even our iSecure system that has a StarLink radio built in it. And I always stress it out to the dealers to take advantage of that. Do not leave that behind. It's an opportunity for you to make more revenue to yourself. How does the magic work on the StarLink radio? These units are pre-activated from the factory for our dealers before we ship them out. So in reality, I want to call it PFM, pure magic pretty much, right? Well, once you get into the job site and you power up the unit, give it 2 minutes. It's going to tell you if you got good signals or not, pretty much. If not, we have the tools to improve your signal strength for you, which we're going to be talking about here also in a few minutes. But let's say you got good signals on the job site. Simply attach the phone line to your control panel. The radio is defaulted from the factory to automatically capture that communication from the control panel. So trip an alarm, the radio will capture that communication. We'll send it over a cellular network to our StarLink Network Operations Center, which we call it the knob. And that's where we process every single communications coming in from our StarLink radios. From there, we actually let the dealer go in there and manage their signals to their central station. We highly recommend sending these signals from the knob to the central station over IP if they wanted to, or they can, okay? Or they can dial in the 800 toll-free number to their central station receiver if they want. But let's say, the dealer shows up into a control panel, they don't have a dialer built in, there's no DAC or nothing, but yet that panel needs to be monitored. Our StarLink radio capable of sending up to 5 alarms to your central station. It's got 5 inputs on board that will allow you to send at least an alarm, trouble, a supervisory, maybe a water flow, maybe general alarm. And you can actually configure these alarms whichever way the dealer wants to the central station from a control panel that's never been monitored or never had a dialer built in. And again, over a cellular, fast and secure. The transmission from the control panel to the central station, if you're going through IP from the knob, you're looking less than 20 seconds total time, okay? If you're dialing up from the control panel to the knob to the central station, you're probably looking at about 30 to 35 seconds the most secure fast wave communication to the central station. And certainly we could not do that over POTS line back in the days, okay? We partnered up with AT&T and Verizon because of their, their network security and the reliability of the network and the communications to the NOC and to the central station as well. Keep that in mind. The number 3 reason is why the StarLink radio is really a dealer's choice is the panel power technology. It's a very low current draw that helps the dealer in any applications pretty much when it comes down to powering up the radio from your fire control panel, maybe if it is your intrusion panel, up to 80 milliamps of power. That's all it takes to power up your StarLink radio pretty much. It's going to eliminate the need of additional expensive parts, maybe running conduits, maybe additional labor to wire it up, or transformers or things like that. So it's going to eliminate the need to do all that stuff, thus making your job or your installation more profitable, cutting the unnecessary equipment completely out of your costs and making more money, for the bottom line of your job. Regardless, the radio has to be within proximity of your fire control panel. You can power it up from your control panel. There's no need for you to actually add a transformer or add a battery. It's all supervised by your control panel. Or you can also utilize one of those, self-contained units with a power supply, step-down transformer, and a backup battery built in there. Either one it's still going to cost, save you a lot of money, a lot of time when it comes down to the installation and monitoring of your fire control panel. You can generate a lot more recurrent revenue, incremental, or on a new or on an existing installations by replacing POTS line off of your fire, especially in fire alarms. Okay, come to think about it, currently your customer, okay, the end user pays the phone company for these POTS line. A lot of money every month. Now, if you replace these POTS line with a cellular communicator, or if you install the FireLink control panel, think of how much money you're going to end up saving the end user, your customer, and also think of the opportunity, how much money you're going to be able to make as a dealer as well. And I'll give you a prime example. I mean, I use this a lot with customers or dealers, and they say, wow, I didn't realize how much it really adds up. So if you think about it, 2 POTS line typically will cost about $150 a month, which is about $1,800 a year. Your StarLink communicator is going to cost $60 a month for the end user, and that's about $720 a year, a saving of almost $1,100 to the customer. And when the dealer presents that to their customers, it's like, wow, you're saving me $1,100 a year. That's a great opportunity. I'm going for it. If you take that and you multiply it by 500 locations, that's almost $500,000. And again, what is the dealer getting out of it? Almost $360,000, because now that money is coming into the dealer versus going to your, phone companies that they don't even support their POTS line anymore. So
and that's a great thing to really harp on, to let people understand this. The sunset opportunity is you're taking money that's going to a cable company, a phone company, somewhere else where your customer is spending a lot more money. Now you could step in, help them save money and improve your RMR. So there's a tremendous opportunity right there.
Huge. And, we don't realize that until we start adding it all up. And it is really there. Take advantage of it. I really strongly stress that out. Number 5, reliable cell reporting really is between AT&T, as I mentioned earlier, the most reliable networks there is. Pretty much Verizon wrote the book on security network, I would say, for communications. And that's one of the reasons why we've partnered up with them, as well as AT&T, nationwide coverage, coast to coast. Meaning for the dealer is I can activate a unit on one side of the country, ship it across the other side of the country, and it will continue to work, whether, again, it'll be a Verizon or AT&T. Both of them are very well, pretty much saturated across the US. And I've talked to dealers where some would say, hey, Verizon kicks butt in my area. And I've talked to dealers where they say AT&T is the best thing they've ever seen. And that's one of the big reasons why we partnered up with them. And we have our communications set up, again, pre-activated from the factory on both networks. So that way, when the installer gets the unit in the field, he had no questions whatsoever. They can actually power it up and be able to see that the unit will connect to a tower and will start communicating with no issues. It is the easiest communicator to install, as I mentioned earlier. Can you do it in 15 minutes? Some people do. Some people, God, if they take 8 hours, I think they need to be looking for another job, right? The market, it is the easiest in the market. It is pre-activated, and I mentioned it a couple of times already. And the reason is it makes it easier for the installer on the job site. Again, power it up, give it 2 minutes. It's going to tell you, look, you got good signals, or maybe you need to move it a little bit, or maybe you need to use a different network. Between AT&T and Verizon, there's no way that you're not going to be able to get any coverage. And if there is minimal coverage or marginal coverage, we have what we call an extended antenna that you can utilize that I was going to show you here in a few minutes as well, that will improve your signal strength and your communication. So therefore, at the end of the day, it's going to save you time and labor, the two of the most expensive things you run into on a job. And it's going to, end all the needless on-site troubleshootings, calling the carrier, calling the phone company, calling somebody else. This unit is already pre-activated. All you have to do is select the service plan on it, tell it what central station you want it to communicate to, and you're up and running out of the box with no problem. Is the LTE performance better with the dual antennas on these units? A lot of people actually, when we first came out with the dual antennas on these units, question the fact, like, why do we have to have two antennas? We're actually there to maximize your signal absorption, but mainly AT&T and Verizon came out with the LTE radios or LTE communications are actually in the consumer in mind to conserve battery life on their smart devices. Well, with this device, we really don't care about conserving battery life on this because these things are powered up from your control panel, whether it be an intrusion or fire. So we wanted to connect to a tower and stay connected to a tower. To maximize the communications, one of the antennas is considered to be a primary communication antenna, and that's the antenna on the left-hand side. So that's what connects to your tower and stays connected to the tower all the time. Your right antenna is actually your send dedicated receive. It's a stabilizer, and it's also used in the outbound communication of your unit as well to maximize the signal absorption as well in there. So was two antennas better than one? Absolutely. More reliable? Definitely yes. I would say we haven't had any issues, and there's been no failures on that part of it at all. Also, the proven reliability of this unit with its class-leading technology for over-the-air firmware upgrade. You know, I can harp about this a lot, but we were the first to come out with this on, hey, look, what if we need to do a firmware upgrade on the unit? Now everybody can do firmware upgrades on their unit. Some of them, you'll have to drive over to the unit to do the firmware upgrade, plug in a USB, plug in your laptop and do that. Well, with our units, you can actually do the firmware upgrade over the air. Unfortunately, if you're doing it on a fire radio, you'd have to be on a job site to remove a jumper off the unit because of life safety, so you can do the firmware upgrade. But other than that, you can do it over the air. It's no problem. If you're doing it on an intrusion, it's an un-UL job. It can be done over the air, saving you time and labor as well. You know, occasionally, there'll be some firmware updates on these units based on what the carriers do on their network. And if they did an upgrade on their network, we have to comply with the update for their network. So therefore, we do an update on our firmware, and we publish that. We don't automatically push the updates out. We let the dealer know. We let the dealer know that there's an update if there is, or if there's an issue with the unit out in the field. That's the first thing we take a look at. We'll actually send out an update to that unit. If it, again, as I mentioned, if it's a fire unit, they'd have to be on a job site to do that, so that way they can test the communication and ensure the communication to the central station has not been compromised or interrupted for whatsoever, and the update will take place with no problem. So that's also a plus for the dealer to be able to, think about down the road. It will retrofit. I mentioned it earlier here when we started, almost 17 million security alarm panels out there. Okay, a lot of people want it to be connected to their system remotely. Everybody's got one of those smartphones today, right? We want to know what's going on. We want to stay in touch. So you can download an app on your smartphone. You'll be able to remotely access your alarm system through our connected radio, connected home services, whether it be a home or a business. You'll be able to get text, email notifications, SMS or MMS messages as well. You'll be able to open a virtual, actually a realistic keypad that will mimic what you have on the wall. So actually, as a dealer, you don't need to be training the end users on how to use that, because it will mimic the exact keypad that they have in the premise to arm and disarm the system. You'll be able to get notifications who armed it, who disarmed it. And also the ability to be able to integrate it with Z-Wave devices or video cameras that NAPCO actually has that integrates with these units all over the cellular communicator remotely. Adjust your thermostats, turn on the lights, unlock a door, garage door, front door. Today, with the cold weather, you never know. Make sure you have different scenes set up, and you can do that remotely or locally. Again, as little as $50 your cost as a dealer. Once you apply for your service rebate on these units, think of the opportunity that you can generate the revenue off of that, or maybe the ability to be able to view, cameras remotely, just like being in two places at one place, at one time, right here, viewing who armed the system, or who came home and disarmed the system, who came in with the kids without leaving your house, maybe resetting the alarm remotely, or maybe the employees forgot to turn the alarm on at the end of the day. So you could do that remotely through the app. Really easy. The app is free, downloadable, is compatible with all the NAPCO, the Gemini control panel, as well as your Honeywell control panel and your DSC Power Series control panel. And dealers that I know have taken advantage of all three opportunities utilizing this app in here that we talked about. When it comes down to being in compliance, NAPCO takes the pride, and we actually do it with our I's dotted and T's crossed all the way across, whether it be your NFPA requirements on any given AAJ requirements that is across the US, whether it be in California or in New York, obviously, as well as UL. All of our products is listed, tested, approved, NFPA and UL for communications to your central station. Here's some of the additional opportunities. So those are number 10 reasons that I just went through pretty quick, and I hope I can get some questions on these here in a few minutes, but before we leave today. But other things that we do here as a manufacturer and as a partner with our dealers, we provide you with great selection of communications material to educate not just your people, but your end users also on the cellular sunset solutions that are taking place today. So if you need them, these things are downloadable off our website. And if you also want your hard copies off of these, you might be able to get those from your local NAPCO, or you can reach out to our NAPCO customer service. They can send you some hard copies. But you can download any of these material off of our website as well for your use. The tester unit that we have, we created the testing unit for signal strength. So, to make it easier for dealers or integrators to go out, that is professionally looking StarLink radio with a battery pack attached to it. Whether it be an AT&T or Verizon, we have one for each. As you can see the part numbers on your screen. This one's going to help you determine, hey, look, I'm going to go in there and talk to my customer about upgrading into cellular communications. Already convinced them this is the way to go to save money. And I want to make sure, hey, look, whether it be a Verizon or AT&T, let me go test for signal strength, make sure I have good signals in there. Most of the guys that I talk to, they say they use their smartphone to test for signal strength. If their smartphone works, obviously, our StarLink radio is going to work. That's kind of like almost true, but not 100%. Because, thinking about it, StarLink radio communicators, those are data transmission communicators. They're not on the same frequency that you and I talk on or chat on or text or send videos or any of that stuff. We're on a completely secure channel within these carriers' networks. So the best way to get 100% accuracy in terms of, hey, look, how much signal strength do I have, or is it really good or is it really bad, is to get one of these testers in your rep scan or, in your installer, your project manager, just test it, okay? To let you know, how good is it or how bad is it? Maybe you're going to end up needing one of these units right here. We have one of those universal extended antennas. They're very powerful with signal boost technology built in. They're indoor, outdoor, marine grade antennas, and they do perform, believe it or not. Just like anybody I've talked to so far says, hey, these things really help out a lot, especially when you're in an area, you're like, on the fringe of the network and you may not be getting a lot, or maybe let's say your control panel is inside of a basement or utility room, or maybe in a concrete closet somewhere. This will help you out, increase your signal strength. They do come in different sizes, so they're pretty much pre-made for you from the factory. 4-foot cable that comes with it, it'll help you improve your signal strength within 4 feet of your control panel, or maybe you can go 30, 50, 75, or 100-foot cables that they do come. Again, you can gain up to 9 dB signal strength on these antennas. They're made out of LMR 300 and 400 coaxial cables to really maintain the signal strength and the power this unit has to improve your communication. Yeah, they're universal. We call them universal because they do work on any cellular communicator out there, but we really truly want you to use them on ours. And if you want to use them on somebody else, yeah, they do work. It does come with all the hardware that you would need for that as well. It also comes with a ground fault isolation bracket that in case you need to install it on the outside of your building or on the metal post. I mentioned it earlier though, and I put that up on the screen here. As you can see on our StarLink radio, the extended antenna replaces the left antenna on any of your LTE StarLink radios. And that's for a reason, because that's your primary communication antenna, okay? Just in case, you drop out the papers that came with it or your instructions and you don't have it, just keep in mind your left antenna on all of our StarLink radios is the primary communication antenna. And if you want to replace it with this extended antenna, that's the one to remove. Both of these antennas now need to be connected to the radio in order for it to work properly. And last but not the least, I would say we take a pride in what we do, not just in the rest of the stuff that I was just talking about, but we offer 3-year warranty in all our products. How's that? No questions asked. Every single one of these units that we ship out has got a born date warranty sticker on it. It's also documented in the paperwork that comes with it, showing you 3 years, showing you your born date, and 3 years from that born date, that unit is covered. Anything goes wrong with it, right? You can return it to your distributor, return it to us, we'll replace it at no cost.
Yep, and there's a great part about our warranties is no RMAs, no tech ticket numbers, no calling into tech support to troubleshoot it. We trust you know what you're doing. If you're out there in the field and you say it's not working for whatever reason, bring it back where you bought it and we'll swap it out.
Well, I buy a unit today. What's the date on it, David?
If you buy a unit today, we're in January of 2022. You might get a unit next week that says April of 2022. And you got 3 years from that date. We always manufacture and add on a minimum 90 days to our warranty sticker. So we allow time to sit on distributor shelves, your truck, your inventory. So it doesn't matter when you bought it or when you installed it. We give you 3 years from the date on that sticker, and you could actually get more than 3 years depending upon how quickly you install.
Very nice. No RMIA. That's great. Thank you. All right.
The other thing is just an important point on that. We don't even have a repair department. So we're not going to send something back to you with a bill that says no problem found or give you a piece of refurbished equipment. Everything we're going to give you is brand new out of the box, completely new.
That is true. We don't have a repair department. I looked for one the other day and I couldn't find it. That's how strongly we believe in our product and the quality of our product that we manufacture. I don't know if anybody else out there does the same thing, but we're going to stick with that. Now, I want to keep reminding everybody towards the end in here, we're almost towards the end of the presentation. Please remember your service credit. Go ahead, David.
Yep, so $100 service credit on any StarLink you install, whether it's the Berg, whether it's the Fire, whatever version of Berg you're buying is fine, whatever version of Fire you're buying is fine. If you are going out and installing a StarLink, for whatever reason, whether it's replacing your competitor's brand, your customer's canceling POTS lines or phone lines or VoIP or whatever they have, even if you're going out for a sunset solution, replacing an older StarLink, guess what? You're eligible for the $100 service credit. You need to activate the radio, fill out the form online, and there is a form online. You just bookmark that page in your browser, fill it out, send it in to us, fill out the information in there, mail it in to us, and we will apply a $100 service credit towards the monthly fee for that unit, okay? So as Z mentioned earlier, on some units, that could be up to almost 18 months of free service, okay? Very simple, easy to do. The biggest thing is we need to get that form within 30 days. So please take advantage of it.
Beautiful. Do we have a sunset date on that?
There is no end date in sight.
No end date in sight. I like that. Okay, good. If you need to get in touch with David or myself, you could probably see my contact information up on the screen, his contact information up on the screen. Tons of information is on our website, but we're here to help. We're here to answer any questions. I know I ran through this really fast today. I appreciate everybody's time. and hopefully we'll have some good questions. And again, Riley has been very helpful in terms of setting this whole thing up. Greatly appreciated. I'll open it up for any Q&A, and if anybody has any questions, we're here for the, we're right on time. Actually, he gave us like 15 minutes before the end of the hour, so that way we can answer your questions. So we got 17. How's that?
So Z, hey, great job. Hey, want to thank everybody for being on here. Riley, thanks for setting this up. Like Z said, we're going to stick around for questions. So I do see a question in the chat room from Andy. Andy asked, do we have 24/7 tech support? So Andy, we don't have 24/7 tech support per se, but what we have is live tech support from 8:30 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night Eastern Standard Time. And I will say one thing about our tech support, they are true technicians. You won't hear them flipping pages and going through manuals. They actually know the products. They keep the products in front of them. They know how to work on them. So they are trained technicians. Depending upon what part of the country you're in, Andy, you can always call your local rep. Their phones are pretty much on 24/7, so they'll probably get back to you. In addition to that, we have a great tech support library on our website if you sign up for it.
Yep, that's what I was going to mention.
24/7 information on that website. So not only do we put all the installation manuals, all of our tech tips on there, but we know a lot of the newer guys in the industry are not fond of reading installation manuals, but they love to watch YouTube style videos. So we have a whole video tech session on there. They can watch a video and learn how to do something in from 2 to 5 minutes, and it'll teach them and probably answer all the questions. So Andy, hopefully that answered your question.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So our next question is the sunset date a hard date?
So yes.
David,
yes,
I'm going to let you answer all that stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So AT&T is saying February 22nd. And as far as we know, that is a hard date. So we expect on February 22nd, the units to be turned off. Now, if it takes an extra couple of days, that's, AT&T's decision. They're not really sharing that with us. But as far as we are told, it will be a hard date. And Verizon is the end of December.
Perfect. The next question, how long will the 4G LTE last?
Sure, another great question. So as Z mentioned earlier, we were talking about on the slide, as far as we are told from the carriers, and honestly, we're all at the mercy of the carriers because Verizon and AT&T are a lot bigger than our whole industry. They control a lot more than we do, but we are told it will work at least until 2030 and possibly a few years after that. So we're guaranteed to 2030 is what we're being told.
Perfect. We have another question. It says, are you going to make a unit that is dual SIM, so when it is installed at a customer location, it will operate on both carriers simultaneously?
Good question. So the answer at this time, it's not something that we are currently working on. It is something we're looking at, but not currently working on.
Gotcha. Next question is, what is dual path and sole path? What is it and how does it work?
Sure, another great question. So specifically more on the dual path versus sole path when we're talking about fire. If we think about technology, when we started installing fire alarms, we were required to put 2 POTS lines into the fire alarm panel, and they always wanted one as redundant, as a backup. So as we gain technology and now we have cellular communicators, the advantage of a cellular communicator versus a POTS line, the POTS lines were checking in every 24 hours. So once a day, your phone lines would check in, and that's how they would know if everything was good. With the cellular technology, we're able to check in every hour. So it's 24 times more reliable than a POTS line if you think about it, because we're checking in constantly. So a lot of people think they need a dual path radio connection, and they don't, because most jurisdictions now accept sole path. The reason why we sell a dual path and a sole path radio, the dual path for us is an easier connection for the alarm dealer to install. But the advantage is he can actually hook up our dual path radio on a sole path plan. So I know that might sound a little confusing, but the dual path radio is the way to go. Connect it using a sole path plan.
Thank you so much. The next question, is your network operations center UL listed, and for what classes of services? And is there a backup 24/7 network center?
Absolutely. Yep. So we are a UL 5-star rated central station. The only difference is we don't do monitoring for any other accounts or anything. It is strictly for our communicators. Yes, there is redundancy. So we have our main network operations center we refer to as our NOC in Amityville, New York, and we have a redundant center in Pennsylvania, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. So yes, great question.
Perfect. Next question. Can I check signal log or ping on my StarLink radios?
Yep. Again, great thing about our units.
Wow.
You want this one, Z?
No, go ahead. Those are good questions. Wow.
Yep. So the great thing about our units, and Z mentioned kind of earlier, if there was firmware updates or anything like that, you could log in through the website and actually do everything. Same way with checking your radios. I could log into my radio. I could check signal strength, see the check-ins. I could ping the radio, see exactly what's going on. So I have total control, basically like I'm standing in front of that radio from my computer or device connected to the internet from anywhere in the world.
Perfect. Next question. What if my FACP does not have a dialer or DACT?
Yep. So,
Okay, go ahead.
So that's
good.
So, yep. So like Z mentioned earlier during the presentation, especially using our dual path radio, we do have the 5 inputs on there. We got 2 Form C relays, so we can capture, we can create and send supervisory signals or water flow, whatever we want to send right from the radio. So we can do it all.
Gotcha. Next question. What features does the StarLink Connect Berg radio offer?
Sure. So the advantage of using a StarLink Connect, which is a Berg radio, if you are connecting that to a Honeywell Vista Series panel or a DSC Power Series, or of course, any NAPCO panel, you have the capability to upload and download through the radio using Honeywell's Compass software or DSC's DLS software, or of course, NAPCO's Quick Loader software, direct into your alarm panel. In addition to that, you're giving your customer a true virtual keypad. So what's nice about our true virtual keypad, a lot of the apps that are out there, the keypads look like a calculator style keypad. We actually match the keypad that's on the system. So if it's a Honeywell system, it looks like a Vista keypad. If it's a DSC keypad, it looks like that. And of course, NAPCO will match the NAPCO keypad. It's a dual path communicator. So meaning we can communicate IP and or cell. We also give the capability to unlimited notifications. So the customer, if they wanted to know arm or disarm, anytime the system's armed, disarmed, they could do that. You could also put a 24-hour zone on there. So I could put a contact like on a liquor cabinet. So if the parents are going out at night, they want to know if the babysitter opened the cabinet, they can get a text message without actually tripping the alarm. And then our top of the line model is the Z-Wave model, the Z. So we could add Z-Wave devices. So now we can control lights, locks, thermostats, set up scenes when we arm or disarm a system, turn the lights on or off, control the temperature. So a lot of features in that radio. Probably would need a whole hour seminar on that.
Great. Next question. Which formats does on control panels have to transmit in for the StarLink radio? We'll be able to translate. Sorry, I don't know how to.
Yeah. So looking at the question from John. John, so we can do contact ID or 4.2 format. Okay, so we could do either of those. We are working on a Bosch radio format. So if you're looking at the Bosch, I know he had mentioned Bosch in his question. So yes, we're working on the Bosch radio as well, but the standard ones that we have are contact ID or 4.2 format.
Great. Another question. What is included in the sunset?
Sure. So all 3G radios, CDMA radios, that is what's scheduled to sunset. So again, AT&T 3G is scheduled to sunset February 22nd of this year, a little over 5 weeks from now. And Verizon CDMA scheduled to sunset the end of December of this year.
Great. Looks like we only have a couple questions left. I just want to remind the audience, if you have any questions, click the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen, type in your question, and we can get them answered right now. Second to last question so far. What happens if there is an issue with your network operations center in the middle of the night or a holiday weekend or something, and signals are not being handed off to the central station? Is your network operations center physically manned by someone 24/7?
So it is monitored and I'll say manned as closely as possible to that. We don't physically have someone sleeping in the room, but it is monitored and we are known about it within seconds of anything happening, and we are able to address the situation and take care of it right away.
Great. Last question, looks like. Can you tell me more about the $100 service credit?
Absolutely. So the fortunate thing with NAPCO and the advantage, any of our StarLink radios or any of our panels or devices that have a StarLink communicator built in. So we spoke about the StarLink communicator. Z kind of mentioned about the FireLink panel that has a built-in StarLink. And on our Berg side, we also have our iSecure unit, which has a built-in StarLink. So any one of those are eligible for the $100 service credit. So any unit that has a StarLink, or if it's a StarLink by itself, they're all eligible for the $100 service credit. So it's a great opportunity to really bring the net cost for the dealer down. So it helps alleviate the cost of doing all this sunset stuff. It helps bring their cost way down.
Okay, thank you so much. Looks like that was our last question for this session. I just want to thank you, David and Ziad, for this great presentation, and invite anyone in the audience, if you want to get in contact with David or Ziad, to reach out. Could you go one slide back to your contact information, just in case?
I apologize.
Right,
I apologize for my partner here. He was answering the door a minute ago.
Yep. So if you need to get in contact with David or Ziad, there's their phone numbers and emails. Again, thank you, David and Ziad.
Hey,
this was a great presentation.
Sorry, Riley, can I give a phone number real quick? If anybody needs tech support directly, I'm sorry, I just definitely want to mention this. Our number into tech support directly would be 1-800-645-9440. And again, that's 8:30 in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. So that's direct into tech support. If you ever need, you could feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to Z. We'll be happy to help.
Absolutely. Yep. Riley, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.